What is the latest on the investigation, and do you believe that Tyler Robinson acted alone?
Well, it's an ongoing investigation, and right now he is in custody and charged with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to get into more details about other people at all, but we have him in custody for assassinating Charlie.
And do we have any direct evidence tying him to the shooting? We had the FBI director on this morning saying there was DNA evidence. What can you tell us about that?
There is DNA evidence. There is evidence tying him to the shooting. I'm not going to get into any details about that because now it will be a prosecution.
Was it appropriate for the FBI director to give those details?
Well, sure. They're the investigators and we're the prosecutors. Okay. But now it's a prosecution.
What is your latest understanding of his motive?
You know, I can't discuss the motive other than it was horrific. And it's really bone-chilling that this happened to someone we all know. So many kids know, so many teenagers know, so many young adults know, in a crowd of 2,000 people who saw him get assassinated. It was truly horrific.
And the governor spoke about the governor spoke about a left-wing ideology, as well as the FBI director. Is the evidence that you're seeing supporting that?
Well, I think it's been released what was printed on the bullets, on the bullet that killed Charlie, on the bullets in the gun. That's as much as I can say about it, other than it's still surreal that it happened.
Do you expect state charges to follow tomorrow, and what about federal charges?
Sure, so there are state charges that will be filed as well as federal charges. We're working hand in hand with the state in Utah, but I expect charges filed both state and federally. We do that often in violent cases, and we work together to ensure that he gets the maximum sentence under the law.
Everyone's pleased that this case seemed to get resolved relatively quickly, and the FBI director has received some praise for directing that the photographs be released, but he's also received some criticism for his information about the two persons of interest early on. Do you think that criticism is fair? What do you have to say about it?
No, the FBI director has been working tirelessly. They got this photo out. You know, this is great police work by the FBI, by the locals, working together. They got this photograph out. You know, we figured someone would identify him based on that, and sure enough, they did. But also, the FBI is working hand in hand with ATF. They gave the gun to ATF. They analyzed the gun. They were working around the clock all night long to get the DNA off the gun and get the DNA analyzed. So it's been a big group effort. No, and everyone's done a great job, including Director Patel.
So he has your full confidence?
He has my full confidence, absolutely.
Vice President Vance and White House aide Stephen Miller were saying that the full weight of the federal government should be used to target and investigate left-wing radical groups. Do you share that position?
Absolutely. We saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. He was assassinated speaking to college students peacefully, and he was assassinated. Anyone who commits such violence will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Look what almost happened to Governor Shapiro in the governor's mansion. His wife, his family, they were asleep upstairs and someone tried to light his house on fire. You know, there are so many crimes of violence throughout this country. Doesn't matter who it is. We're going to come after you if you commit a violent crime.
But the president did say he believes it's mainly on the left-wing radicals. But as you mentioned, the governor's mansion being set afire. We had the former Speaker of the House for the state of Minnesota killed along with her spouse. We had the state senator, wounded along with his wife. So it's clearly not just one side, is it?
No, and in the state speaker's house, I believe they said that they were supporters of Governor Walz. So people are all over the board, who are doing this. And don't forget, we had two Jewish young people gunned down just minutes away from where we are right now for anti-Semitism because somebody hated Jewish people so much that they gunned down two young people right here in D.C. I was at that horrific crime scene. It doesn't matter who it is. Yes, who killed Charlie? Left-wing radicals, and they will be held accountable. So will anyone in this country who commits a violent crime against anyone. And the death penalty, thanks to Donald Trump, is on the table again.
So will you be applying the same standard to both sides?
Of course we will. Any crime of violence will not be tolerated in this country by Donald Trump, by the Department of Justice, and hopefully not by state and local officials either.
And you can guarantee the American people you'll be operating based on the facts and the law?
We will always operate on the facts and the law. I think Charlie's case is so horrific because 2,000 plus young people were there, and it was captured on video in the middle of the day at a peaceful event in Arizona. It's almost surreal. I mean, I'm in Utah. It's surreal that it happened, that his body had to be brought by J.D. Vance back to Arizona. The whole thing is truly horrific, and
he was your friend.
He was my friend. He was so many of our friends. I mean,
where were you, and what was your reaction when you heard he had been injured?
It's interesting. I was on a plane coming home from an event I was doing with Bobby Kennedy, and Gates, who works with me, was shaking, and he showed me his phone, and I was looking at Bobby Kennedy, whose father was assassinated. And I think we were all in shock. We were all praying. And I said to Bobby, Bobby, how old were you when your dad was assassinated? And he said, I was 14. And Bobby was with him when he died, I think the next day in the hospital. But you know, Charlie left behind a beautiful wife, a brilliant wife, and 2 young kids. And that's what, when these insane, horrible people commit these acts of violence, I don't think they're thinking about, or they are thinking about, what they're going to hurt, who they're going to hurt. But Charlie's memory, they didn't silence Charlie. They created an army of young people who are going to go out there, and Charlie was extremely religious. Be religious, talk about God, not be scared to talk about their faith, talk about politics, have a healthy, decent conversation about it, which is what Charlie did as a gentleman. He took all sides of the argument. They thought they would silence him. It was the opposite. And I think Erica Kirk is going to be loud and strong and bold in the future as well.
General Bondi, you're seeing the daily threat information. You know about threats against members of Congress. You know about threats against judges. Do you have a responsibility, and do all people in government have a responsibility to dial it down and to make sure that the American people know that violence, wherever it comes from, will not be tolerated?
Violence shouldn't be tolerated wherever it comes from. And, you know, seeing this horrific assassination, this is what should unite people. Yet, you know, we saw a school board member in Virginia just today, I think, online, talking about how Charlie deserved this. I mean, horrific things. This is where our country should unite and come together. You know who was murdered? A Christian, a father, and a husband. That's who was assassinated this week, and we've got to band together now. We've got to come together as a country, or we're lost.
How difficult is it to separate the personal from the professional? You're the Attorney General of the entire country, yet this is your friend. I can't think of a recent case quite like that.
I think for so many of us, for so many of us, and I think for everyone who didn't even know Charlie personally, because they saw it and they felt like they knew him because he was so personal. For me, I've been in prosecutor mode since the second this happened, for all of us, for all of law enforcement, for Director Patel, for all of the agencies. But then you go home at night and you look up and you see his face on the TV screen and realize he's no longer with us, that Erica no longer has a husband, his kids no longer have a father. It's horrific. It's horrific, and I hope it wakes up America that we have got to unite and we can have a peaceful discussion about our differences.